জানেন
Start করবো? ঠিক আছে।
Startingটাই difficult. Once you start,
Is it rolling? আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে। Hey guys, I'm Mehdi. So I'm here from Fires Education Services. So basically, আজকে we're starting our first podcast, and I have Fires sir here with me. So basically, the main idea of this podcast is to discuss about entrepreneurship, student life, and how to build your career, and like how you should shape yourself up as a student, and about education. So, sir, first let's dive into about you. Um, Tell me, why did you start Fires Education Services? I just want to know. Let's start from there.
right. So basically, I was doing my master's right in the
Yeah.
UK, master's in education, and I was doing my thesis. So whatever you see in FES, it's
Yeah.
based on my master's thesis, right? And then I was thinking what I could do after that. I got an offer for PhD from University of Leicester.
Yeah.
But I wanted to challenge myself.
Yeah.
And wanted to see what I could do, not be very comfortable in one kind of setting, right? Because I knew if I would do my PhD, I would stay back in England and I would have a teaching job.
Yeah.
But that was very safe. But then when I looked outward, I saw that there were many opportunities, especially in Bangladesh, and there was a huge market gap. And we have all these market gaps in Bangladesh, right? I saw huge potential, especially in the coaching center industry. Why? I'll tell you, because this industry is quite old. It dates back to 1970, 1975, right after our independence.
Yeah.
Yes, there was no institution as of sort, but educated teachers or boys and girls used to go to different houses to teach, right? That's how it started.
So there was no generalization of it.
No, there was no generalization of it. But the term coaching center, could be referred back to the early 90s or the late 90s.
Yeah.
And then early 2000, it was booming everywhere, right? Especially, I would say late 90s. But the industry is so unregulated. There are no rules. There are no regulation. Even in our trade license, we do not have this category. We cannot register our business as a after-school institution or coaching center. That's embarrassing. That's a shame.
The past company I worked in also faced the same issue. Like it was tough for them to decide jashole কোন business category they would term themselves as.
Okay.
So yeah.
And I never thought why. Because because I was researching and I saw that this industry in Bangladesh is worth the amount is not exact, but it's worth $3 to $5 billion. So when it's
The
generating
education industry.
no coaching industry,
Just
coaching center
Okay.
market. So when an industry generates so much of money,
Yeah.
you have to give it some kind of credit, right? So I thought there was massive amount of opportunity in this market, but I also knew the challenges because I've never lived in this country.
Yeah.
I went to a boarding school in India. I was there for 9 years. Yes, I did my A-levels here, but that was just for a brief period of time, 2 years, আড়াই বছরের মতন. But then right after that, I went to the UK. So I knew that, coming back here and starting something on my own would be very challenging.
Yeah.
And I thrive on challenges, okay? Yes, there was a lot of problem, lot of chaos. But at the end of the day, what matters, especially in entrepreneurship, is it's a very underrated quality, but
Yeah.
I think consistency, persistence is the key.
I have another question just following up. Definitely education had a lot of aspects to it. There could have been edtech, there could have been like building your own school,
Yeah.
university, or maybe you could have just been like a home tutor as well. There are different modes of businesses. Why exactly coaching center and
Okay.
why exactly education is something that you decided to take up on?
Okay, so firstly, I come from an education family. I'm the 4th generation teacher.
Okay.
My great
That's
grandfather is
interesting, yeah.
Dr. Mohammad Shohidullah.
Yeah.
So he's a philologist, educator, and
It's the same Dr. Mohammad Shoidullah, right?
Yes.
যার নাম ওই যে ঢাকা ইউনিভার্সিটিতে যা
yes,
হয়।
yes, yes.
Wow, interesting heritage, yeah.
So he's contributed a lot to the education sector in this country and towards Bengali language, Bangla
I think
language,
he
right?
also had some key notable takes like in the letters of Bengali
Yes.
language. Yeah.
Yes. In the formation of the letters,
Yeah.
right? He was the one who I think edited the whole alphabet system of our
Oh, wow.
language, right?
That's a huge heavy background.
Yeah, we are nothing compared to him.
Yeah.
But you know, education was always a part of our household.
Yeah.
Right in the morning, there used to be books. We had to sit down, read storybooks, or practice handwriting. Anything. It was that kind
Was
of thing.
both of your parents a teacher as well, or
No.
your mom?
No, but a lot of our uncle, aunts,
Okay.
my elder brother taught in a school, my sister taught in a school, I taught in a school. And I know most of the kids in Bangladesh, to get financial freedom, that's the, first step,
Yeah.
right? You go to a house as a home tutor, or you start teaching in a small school. So that's how it all started. But we were more serious because it was ingrained in the family, right? It's in our blood. So that's why education. And why coaching center? Because, if you want to start a school, there's a lot of barriers to entry. It is quite expensive
So
to
coaching
set up a
center was
school.
like your MVP, right? So
Correct. Because, there are not much of a legal paperwork. There's not much to do.
Yeah.
You just need a trade license to start. It is inexpensive. So this is why I thought the coaching center market was the right market to start with.
okay, that's an interesting answer. Tell me more about your childhood. Like, what are the key things that made you who you are, or like
Okay.
any incidents that happened during your childhood that made you so passionate towards education and like entrepreneurship? Like, I think we all are aware, like, you were studying abroad, and I think the normal or the norm is something যে মানুষজন বিদেশে যাচ্ছে, they're studying and they're not coming back, they're adjusted, comfortable with that lifestyle, because it's everything nice, and I think there's a bubble of it. I think here it's all of a
No,
chaos.
it is nice abroad. It's very refreshing because when we go back, it's very
Yeah,
clean and
so
very
why did you
serene.
decide to come back into all this chaos and everything?
Again, as I told you, I thrive on challenges. So I thought it would be interesting because I was getting bored doing the same thing. I can't do the same thing again and again. And talking about childhood, it did not happen all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So I was in India for 9 years. I went to a boarding school. Right after that, when I came back to Bangladesh, I started working in a school because my mom was like, "You can't sit idle,
Yeah.
at home." So she gave me 100 taka and she said, take a rickshaw now, CV print karo,
Yeah.
jama dao sab jagah.
Yeah.
So that was reality, right? Also, when I was at school or when I was doing my A-levels, a lot of teachers used to tell me that you're very good in explaining things. So you should go to the board, start explaining biology or business. That's how it started, right? So when I started, I got my first teaching job when I was 16.
Yeah.
So when I went to the class,
That's very early to be a teacher.
yeah, I was pushed by my mom. Okay.
So at the age of 16, what were you teaching?
So I was teaching, you won't believe it, I started teaching bio, grade 6 bio, grade 6, grade 7 bio, chem.
At the age of 16.
At the age of 16, because I had chem bio in my O-levels, right? Physics.
So you're giving your O levels when you were 16.
I was done with my O-levels.
Oh, okay.
I just started my A-levels.
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
So I started teaching, and once I started teaching, again, the teachers there in that school, they were like, "You have something in you. You're very good in explaining.
Yeah.
Probably you're better than some of the experienced teachers who's worked for 15, 20 years. So I think you should take this career very seriously. It's in your blood." Okay, that's what I was told. So I started taking it very seriously. But then I also saw that I think I had to study the subject,
Yeah.
I had to, hone my skills and be better at it. Okay. I wasn't satisfied or contented by the same lecture way of teaching, So I'll stand somewhere and just give lecture after lecture. I wasn't happy with that. I wanted to do something creative.
Change the narrative of it.
Change the narrative because there's so much going on in the world, right? So Bangladesh is always behind everything.
Yeah.
So why not, we start innovating in our pedagogies and teaching methods.
So growing up so far, have you had any mentors in like the education industry who you always aspired to be or looked up to?
I looked at Dr. Mohammad Shaitullah. That was my earliest memory. When I used to go to India,
Yeah.
my mom used to narrate stories of him, how educated he was, and he had collection of books, libraries that was worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Even I think, if I'm not mistaken, England wanted his library, right? So all these stories were narrated to me, and I think it left a deep impact. Okay. And I always felt, and all the credit goes to my mom, that I always felt that she did not force me to think about money. She always told me, be educated, and then later on, my wife was the one who told me that you have something in you. You're not the one to work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You should go back and try to do something. You have this entrepreneurial quality in you. So yeah, this is the way FES started, but then there was a lot in store. I did not know what was coming ahead. It was very, very challenging.
So let's summarize up the timeline. So you started your first teaching job at the age of 16. After that, what did you do? You went to Darjeeling?
So no, I was in Darjeeling.
Oh, okay.
I came back
Yeah.
after 9 years,
Yeah.
started the job, and I was doing my A-levels.
Okay.
So I was in Bangladesh for 2.5 years.
So after completing A-levels, have you done something notable, or do you think there were some sort of life mystery behind your A-levels?
I did not enjoy doing my A-levels here, to be very honest.
What's the reason?
I think because I studied in India, and Indian teachers are trained and they're good.
Are they much more, I think, sincere towards the entire education form? And like, I think Bangladesh আমাদের যখন কোচিং আমরা যখন পড়তে যাই, I feel like there's one teacher, but there's like 40 students. So if you think you're
The
studying
student-teacher ratio.
yeah, so ratio.
So that's 1:40.
Yeah. So I think now if there's 2 hours, that's like 120 minutes, and now you do the ratio maths, it's like I think barely একটা student 3-4 minute বেশি personal care about attention
Right.
পাইতেছে না. I think that's something I think you faced in your A-levels, right?
True. You also have that in India, but I think the teachers in Bangladesh were not empathetic at all. Not only that, it was a highly unregulated market. They were not professional. They didn't look like teachers. I felt as if they were there because they were forced to work as a teacher.
Just for the sake of being there.
Just for the sake of it. And, I hate this about the teachers in this country, and hate is a very strong word. The power dynamics between student and a teacher is very imbalanced. So as a teacher, I'm going to have 100% power and you 0. That's not how it works. And I will always demean you. I'll tell you bad things. I'll make you embarrassed in front of everyone, right? And I'm going to scold you.
I think that's like lack of psychology from like the teachers and like understanding how students think and everything.
And that's also a culture, right? That's a culture of our society.
Yeah.
And I did not like it. But in India, we were treated as individuals. Even if I'm 15 years old.
I was expecting like something similar. Bangladesh and India would be same to same, I think. But I guess Darjeeling education is a bit different. I think it's a much more premium if you compare it with all
when
over
we
India.
were there, the quality was much higher, was much more higher. I can give an idea. Our teachers were so friendly. They used to dance with us. They used to, to play with us. We had an Australian teacher who taught us Julius Caesar, and she used to enact. She used to sit on the table and enact, and it was a beautiful, lesson that we used to have with her. But I missed all of those. I'll tell you a story, I was confused which subject to take. So I went to a teacher, and he was like, okay, what do you want to focus on in Dhanmondi? And I said, business. Acha, ঠিক আছে, তাহলে business now, accounting now, economics now, math now. হয়ে গেল, ঠিক আছে, যাও. But later on, I discovered I did not like accounting. Accounting is not for me. So I'm not a robot. I'm not a machine that you are, burdening me with all these subjects. I should have taken English language or literature because, I'm told by my peers and everyone, and I also teach English in a leading university in this country. that I was good in English, and no one was able to, recognize that in me. That okay,
Yeah, I think A levels English literature or language is very highly disregarded. People are always going towards engineering.
why do you think so? Why? Why do you think so?
I think এইখানে আসলে the pressure comes from both ends. I think there's teachers দের একটা mentality, there's students with a mentality of going abroad to different unis, and then there's parents also. So the way I see it is, for example, personally I was facing that issue is I wanted to drop physics because
Okay.
I felt like having 2 subjects is good enough for me. I wanted to focus on my ECAs and other because I loved doing that more. And so far, according to my research, having 2 subjects is good enough, at least if you want to study in the country or abroad as well.
Yeah, there are good universities that
But
accept.
maybe হয়তো স্কলারশিপের দিক দিয়ে হয়তো অত ফ্লেক্সিবিলিটি থাকবে না, but I think I'll still be able to get a chance. So, but my parents, they were like, why don't you have any science subjects? You only had physics. Why did you have to
Yeah.
drop it? So this is like the mentality যেটা আসলে I think আমাদের স্টুডেন্টসরা বের হয়ে আসতে পারতেছে না. And I also see a lot of my friends are being influenced by the same thing, and them in return are influencing their friends. So I think যেরকম I remember আমার একটা time, I'm not gonna say who the teacher was, but আমরা সবাই মিলে এক টিচারের কাছে পড়তে গেছি, right? একটা সাবজেক্ট. I think we all ended up doing bad, and I think it has nothing to do with us being students, but I think it has a lot to do with the setting with the teacher as well. So এই যে influence stuff, these are a lot of things that divert your subject choosing and everything. And পরে I feel like there are a lot of people যারা ওই যে ইউনিভার্সিটিতে লাফাইতে CSE করতে যাচ্ছে বা ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং করতে যাচ্ছে 4 years down the drain, and you're like wondering where your life has taken the turn. So yeah, so I think that's a major issue. It's like the people around you and also the people in your home as well.
Yeah, because I'll tell you something about the coaching market, okay? So, see, there are a number of factors that's playing underneath, okay? For example, the first thing, there's a syndicate, okay?
Yeah.
So there's a teacher syndicate. So if you're a teacher, and if I have good relations with you, your student will also study under me.
Yeah.
Then again, let's say if he has a good relationship with me, then my students will go to him. So there's a big syndicate.
Is it like
everywhere.
all over Dhaka or 3G specifically?
Especially the Gulshan market. Okay, so there is a big syndicate, and there's a barrier to entry. New competitors can't come in very easily. It took
Yeah.
me 4 years to break into the market. You know my story, right?
Yeah.
So syndicate was one of them, and the
Actually,
students-
let's dive deeper into it.
Okay, tell me.
So after you're done with your A levels, you went abroad. What was your first bachelor's on? Arts, right?
So I did a bachelor's in business
Okay.
and marketing.
Okay.
Okay. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
Because I'm very passionate about
I also
marketing.
heard you did arts as well, right? Or maybe.
No, I didn't do arts. I did English later on.
Oh, right.
Okay.
That's a different form of art.
Yeah. So after that, I did my master's in
Yeah.
education and teaching from University of Leicester, and then later on, I also got a CELTA degree, which is an English degree from University of Cambridge. Because later on, my colleagues suggested that I should teach English, and there is a market for it. So yeah.
Fair point. Okay. So after you were done with it, you decided to come back to Bangladesh. So what was the turning point? What was the thought যে এখন বাংলাদেশে যাই গিয়ে কিছু একটা করি? Like what led to that?
There was a market gap. There was a market gap. I was sitting in the UK and I was looking at what people
The
were
quality
doing
of
here,
education, yeah.
and I thought, what are they doing? There's so much of ideas on the internet, on the web, around the world. People are traveling globally. I think global travel increased after 2013, 14, 15.
Yeah.
Why aren't people doing anything? Okay. And I thought there was a huge potential. And that's when my wife said, look, I think you should go back. And, in Bangladesh, business is good. Okay. So you should try your hands.
So which year did you come back to Bangladesh?
2015.
15.
It was, I remember, January 27th.
Wow.
Okay, I remember the date.
exact
Yeah.
date,
Okay.
So after that, after coming back, did you start FES at that exact year?
In 3 months, exactly.
2 months.
Because it was based on my master's thesis, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
the business plan was there.
Putting your theory in practical.
Yeah, because you know how I teach. I
Yeah.
don't believe anything which is in theory. I always believe in practicality. So I came in January 27. We launched FES on the 5th May 2015.
How did it feel like transitioning like from idea to an actual coaching center, building it out, deciding what you're gonna teach, hiring the right staff? Were the obstacles, and how did you come to
It was overwhelming.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of disadvantages that played against me. First of all, I never lived in this country, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't have any point of contact, any reference. I didn't know all these teachers that I know right now.
yeah.
If I have any problem, I can call someone who's going to help me. Okay? So that was a big issue. Of course, I was
Was
scared.
there anyone who guided you during this entire process?
No one. Everyone said I was going to fail.
Okay.
Okay? Then
I wanted to ask one more question. I think you come from a family of businessmen and everyone who were like, I think, serial entrepreneurs. How did they perceive it? Like I'm pretty sure you are an entrepreneur as well, but like family eyes, it might be something like, oh, okay, now he's going to be a teacher. Like,
Yeah.
what was that like?
It wasn't a good feeling. People around us do not see teachers as proper professionals.
Yeah.
Our job is always looked down upon. I really don't know why, but it's one of the most thankless job.
Yeah.
It is also one of the most frustrating job because you have a lot to do compared to other professions. It did not feel nice, but my mom was with me. My wife was with me. I think that was enough. But other than that, everyone thought I was mad because,
Yeah.
I studied in the UK. I had good degrees
Yeah.
from good universities. Why am I spending my time here?
Yeah.
I got good offers from other schools. I got good offers from my family members, from my dad, that, okay, I can join their business or their family business. But
I think that's the traditional route most people would have taken.
yeah, but this is FES, right? So I like to create my own environment, own ambience. If I was under them, I couldn't have done what I have done here. Right
I think
now.
your personality is being reflected here. I think it wouldn't have been reflected if you were at some
Correct.
other business.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So moving forward, I wanted to ask, like, let's say, initially when you started with one subject, or did you start with like 3, 4, and you had other teachers with you?
So we started with 7, 8 subjects, and that was a mistake.
Yeah.
So my advice to all the entrepreneurs will be: do not start with a lot of products in the beginning because you might waste money.
Maybe have 1 or 2 and perfect it.
Correct. Just have 2, 3, or one or two. 2 is fine. So if I had to go back, I would start probably 3, 4 subjects. Start with the compulsory subjects,
Yeah.
Bangla, English, Math, and have business, eco accounting. That's it, and then slowly introduce other subjects. So when you're starting off, do not start with everything because the investment will be high. You'll have a lot of pressure and stress and headaches. But yes, that's how I started, with a lot of subjects, and then I was like, what is this
Interesting.
going on?
Okay, so you started luckily within 3 months. That's like some sort of rapid execution over there. So after that, what was the next 1 year like?
I think the first year was good, not bad. Because when you start a business, you have a sudden peak in the beginning, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that was the period, and we had some students from Scholastica. My best friend helped me out, and that's how you start business, right? Your friends come over, they refer.
Referral, word of mouth.
Word of mouth, and some students joined, and those were really good lads. I enjoyed them teaching, and the culture was very different here. I was also grappling with my everyday life because I used to live with my parents back then, and the commute was bad. 40 minutes to come and 40 minutes to go.
Where did you live?
Mirpur DHS. Okay. It's a beautiful area. I love the area. It's just the distance.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we entrepreneurs, we always think of productivity and efficiency.
Efficiency.
So I do not want to waste 1.5 hours every day. That was the issue, but I was getting used to it. The first 6 months, I was very sick, UK sick. I wanted to go back. I wanted to get a UK visa as soon as possible, see my friends. I lost a lot of weight in the beginning. We'll try to put the pictures in the
Sure.
podcast. And then I fell miserably sick because I was working day in and out. I was doing everything by myself. I think for new entrepreneurs, please do not ask your father's assistant to do it for you. Go to the office, go to the government office, pay taxes on your own.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have it easy. Like, I think যেরকম recent আমার কয়েকটা friends, they start their own business and they're basically working সো ওদের এন্টায়ার বিজনেসটা ইজ বেসিক্যালি একটা আইটি ফার্ম যেখানে ওরা সবকিছু আউটসোর্স করবে। সো আই এম নট শিওর ইফ ইউ নো দিস, বাট লেটস সে আইটি ফার্ম যদি বড় বড় প্রজেক্ট, স্পেশালি ফরেন প্রজেক্টসে কাজ করতে হয়, লিগাল ডকুমেন্টেশন ইজ আ ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট।
And the policies, right?
And আমাদের আই এম নট শিওর এখন নতুন গভর্নমেন্ট কি করছে, বাট পাস্ট গভর্নমেন্টের লিগাল পলিসি ওয়াজ ভেরি আই উড সে ইন্টারেস্টিং অ্যান্ড আপ। সো এখানে আসলে সমস্যাটা ছিল যে for every income you get, like let's say every retainer or every new project you get, so you have to pay an additional income tax and also charge the client a VAT. So after the additional income tax, at the end of the year, profit jeta thakbe, oikhane abar 27% একটা corporate tax হয়. So like these are learnings, like let's say my friends, I think ওরা অনেক easily শিখতে পারছে because they had their father who was in the same industry, worked and everything. So এই জায়গায় I think you said you did it all by your own. So how did that feel like?
It felt good because again, all the credit goes to my boarding school experience. We had to do everything on our own, from making your own bed, sometimes washing your own clothes and undergarments, right? That's how life is, or folding your own clothes. So I was pretty much used to doing things on my own, even in the UK, doing your own groceries and, doing all adult stuff. So I wanted to do it by myself. If you don't get your hands dirty, you're not going to learn. So I lost a lot of weight and I went to the doctor and he said, your metabolism is quite high. You need to eat frequently. And then I started having 5-6 meals a day. And then slowly, I think 4-5 months, I had a good health, started increasing weight. And then I think my confidence grew. But then, from second year, the challenges started.
What was second year like?
It wasn't good because the students that we had did not come back. And it wasn't because of me, because we did not have. Here's the biggest problem in the education industry in Bangladesh. There are no trained teachers. We do not have good teachers. So
it's just degree as a teacher hoye gelam ekta jayga niye, right?
Yeah. So for example, would you operate yourself under someone who does not have an MBBS degree, a doctor?
No.
Never, right?
Yeah.
So how can we teach a child or children without having an education degree? Okay, because we're going to impact their lives.
I think a lot of our teachers, especially A levels and O levels and let's say below, either actually কোনো certification or কোনো proper licensing নাই that you're valid to be a teacher.
I think here we lack in policies. And I hope
regulation as well.
I think the current government should come up with a policy like, you need to have masters in education, or you need to somewhat do a course run by the government, or you could do a course in one of the affiliated universities, and then you can become a teacher.
I think one of the biggest impacts that every student has is, যেরকম for example আমি আমার স্কুলটাকে এক্সাম্পল হিসেবে ইউজ করি। So BIT তে যেরকম when they're hiring teachers, right? They're hiring people who have just graduated from university, which is completely fine. But I think যে মানুষটা ইউনিভার্সিটি থেকে গ্রাজুয়েট করছে, or capability in terms of psychology and understanding student behaviors, dealing with complex and chaotic situations of whatever happens inside the classroom, setting the right goals for the students, এই জিনিসটাকে কিভাবে মিটিগেট করতে হয় বা ইভেন ডিল করতে হয় in the first place, এই লার্নিংটা কিন্তু সেই গ্রাজুয়েটার নাই।
No. Because no one knows that there is undergraduate degree in education and teaching. I did masters in education and teaching.
এটা অফার করে?
Of course, you can go to BRAC. BRAC has a great institute of education. Okay. I don't know if I don't think North South has a education department, but BRAC
has.
Yeah. And so if you want to become a teacher, you have to do that degree, and those degrees, they teach you how to control children, how to plan your lesson, what to say, what not to say, how to handle a emotionally challenged kid, right? So we did not have good teachers, and this is why students stopped coming in. Also, location was a factor because when you start.
Where was your first location?
It's in Gulshan 1, Road 131.
I think it's surrounded by a lot of fun areas.
Yeah. So the biggest problem is there was a bar. And after 6 o'clock, it got pretty dodgy. You could see a lot of bikes. That was the biggest
Uncles
challenge.
going up, coming out, corporate
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
And we always had female students at FES, right?
Parents never complained about
Parents started complaining in
Yeah.
the second, third year. And that's when I realized that probably this is not the right location. But this is also one of the challenges of startup companies. You're not going to have
Yeah, I
the
think there are 4 P's in marketing. It's like product. Okay. So you know how like there's like 4 P's of marketing. There's price, there's place, there's product, and there's promotion, right? So I think after early days, it was like a learning. Jashole, we আপনার placement I think was a bit off during the start, especially considering যে আপনার building একটা bar ছিল. But yeah.
not building, just beside.
Beside, yeah.
But you know, Mehdi, this is one of the common challenges that every startup will have. You're not going to have the right location in the beginning because you can't afford. I remember I paid 50,000 in rent. 50,000 was still affordable at that point of time. And when I looked at good places that had foot traffic, their rent was a lot. 2 lakhs, 1.5 lakhs, 1 lakh. So we couldn't afford that. But you learn from it. You learn from it. That's how it goes. And yeah, because of location, location was teacher was the first challenge. We didn't have good teachers. The second problem was location.
Yeah.
And
So product and place both.
yeah, product and place both. And I realized that very early on that, okay, we need to work on it. And then we started looking for good teachers, but it wasn't working. Teachers were changing again and again. And that's also not a good sign in an education institution.
Yeah.
You can't change teachers so many times. But I think we were working with rookie teachers or new teachers. I'm not trying to disrespect them, but they were just not cut out for the job. And this is why we did not have the flow of students that we wanted to have. So that's how 2017 was still okay. 18 and 19 was very bad.
So far, কয় বছর হয়েছে? 5 years?
So next year it'll be 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, I was very young when I started this company, so it's also very
So
emotional.
right now you're 35?
Yeah, I'm 35.
So
So
you were 25 when
24, 25 when I just started. When I was planning, I was 24 when
Pretty
we
early,
launched. Yeah, according to Bangladeshi standards, I think it was pretty very early on. Given that I did not take any assistance or any help from my family or relatives, it was just me in terms of finance. We started with 2 students, 2 teachers, and 3 lakhs taka only. And I just told you, right? It was very emotional because I was quite young. And this is where persistence and consistency comes in, perseverance comes in.
Yeah, I think persistence is a very important thing যেটা nowadays founders and students সবার মধ্যে অনেক lack করে.
Yeah, it's a very underrated quality, no?
Yeah,
Why?
I think it's the focus behind the goal, the object, and I think ওই যে motivationটা যে actually
Or do we live in a very digital world? We have
I think
ADHD.
digital is not the issue. For example, আমি যে পড়ালেখা করতেছি, কেন করতেছি, কিসের জন্য করছি, এটার কিন্তু কোনো ক্লিয়ার অ্যান্সার কারো কাছে নাই। I think if I ask 75% or 70% of the students will be like, I don't know, কেন করতেছি, জানি না। So I think লাইফে ওই পারপাসটা is very important. I think ওই পারপাসটা নাই বলেই people are lost. And I think তখন we're just doing it for the sake of doing it. Parents বলতেছে, সবাই দেখতেছি করতেছে. I think that's a huge factor. যে just করতেছি তো করতেছি. Anyways, let's move on from that. I want to ask a few other questions. Let's say, in this 10 years that you've operated FES, actually, I want to hear about some notable times যেখানে আপনার financial crunch অনেক বেশি ছিল, and ওই টাইমটাতে how did you feel?
I think, I mean, when you have financial problems, especially in a new company, in a startup, you feel very down. You feel very, very bad because, probably our revenue was not even, there were times when our revenue was 1 lakh, but then, our expenses were 1 lakh 52 lakhs. So I was charging my credit cards, right? And I was maxing out my credit cards. And then the bank starts calling you every day in the morning. I went through that, in 2018. It was not a lot.
How did that feel like, taking the call from the bank and like you?
I felt like a thief.
Yeah.
I felt like a thief, as if I was running away. Also, I think Bangladesh's economy is not supportive to young entrepreneurs. That's a big complaint that I have. Bangladesh supports millionaires and group of companies, not entrepreneurs like us. Okay, so banks will pressurize us to pay that 20,000 or 30,000 taka per month, but they're not pressurizing the big company to pay crores of installment.
Definitely,
right?
like reform it too. We've heard a lot of notable figures just taking loans and running away. I mean, yes, is one of the parts.
No, I'm not a political person, so I won't comment on that, right? I'm more into education, but yeah, these things have happened, and
were banks supportive, like loans, but Aishop dik de?
I did get a loan in the beginning. It was still easy to get a loan back in 2015, 16. But then I told you how I was heartbroken because we were trying for a loan in 2022, 23, even in recent times, but banks were not supportive at all, and I didn't know why. And we tried a lot, and our trading history is good, trading records are good. People now know us, everyone knows us, and
I think we credibility to build good time, like, and I think that's
no, we have the credibility. In spite of the credibility, we were not given enough respect. There is a taboo in this industry, right? Oh, he's a teacher, or he's a teacher of a coaching center. And this is
how
why.
does that feel when someone's like, oh, you're a teacher, but it's not like, oh, you're a teacher. It's like, oh, you're a teacher. So how does that
I have a thick skin, so I'm okay with anything when people say, but now people know what we are. We have established a benchmark. But I never felt bad because I know that this profession is a notable profession. And also there's good money in this industry. If you own a school or if you own an after-school institution.
Bhalo teacher, they also make good money, I think. Yeah?
Yes, in the private after-school institution industry, they do make a lot of money, more than probably 5 or 6 times more than any full-time job in the corporate industry. People don't know about that, right? It's a full-fledged industry. But I would like to request all the banks and other ancillary services to support us, right? We may fail to pay back an installment, but we are never going to take your money and run away.
Yeah.
I can just, buy a ticket right now and I can be in the US tomorrow morning. You know that. But I did not run away. I was there picking up the phone calls and, trying to solve the problem in real time.
Did you mortgage anything
No.
regarding to? So it was just like, when are you giving the money back?
Yes. And I maxed out pretty bad. All my credit cards were maxed out. And
How
then
many credit cards did you have back then?
4 or 5.
So that's like a lot of money you maxed out.
Yeah. So, and then I just have now 1 credit card. I've learned my lesson.
Yeah, I think this is a very important financial
Yeah.
lesson, that always have like maximum 2 or 3 credit cards. Like use one for like any instant medical expenses. Like I think people that are 10টা 5টা that's risky.
Because there is a technical aspect to it.
Yeah.
Let's say you have a credit card of 1 lakh. Your income should be 10 lakhs.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how you can pay back.
Yeah,
right?
but ekhane kintu it's like 2x, 3x of your salary. That is
Right.
the scary part.
Yeah, that's a scary point because
Oই
once
spending habit to chole ashteche.
right, and once you're spending, let's say 50,000 taka on a credit card, you have to pay right the next month. Yeah, so if you can't pay out from your salary or from your business or from your profit, then it's a big problem. So I learned in the hard way, but then things became worse. 2020, we were hit with COVID.
Yeah, let's talk about COVID. What was that like? Like the transition from I think I remember like my last day in school.
When did COVID happen? March?
March 14th was my last day in school. I remember, I think it was a Tuesday or Wednesday, and
We closed down our institution on March 22nd or 23rd. That was the last day I went in. And then we shifted to online, right? But I think I take COVID as a blessing in disguise because, tough times make tough men, right?
Yeah.
And then, when I had to teach online, I was clueless. Okay, how do I teach online, right? Do I teach using an iPad or do I use this particular gadget? Which software do I use? If you look at my first online classes, they were so bad. It was,
I think every teacher struggled with it, but I think since apne baideshe porashona korchen, and I think
it was still easier for me.
Yeah, I think there were teachers যাদের ক্লাসরুমে ঢুকে স্টুডেন্টসরা পুরো জুম মিটিং এর কন্ট্রোল নিয়ে যাতা করছে so
Really?
yeah.
No, that didn't happen to me, but whatever I do it in a proper way.
Yeah.
So it took a bit of time, probably 3 months. But then I also did courses online, how to teach online. And I think then it was okay. Started using, StreamYard and OBS and, putting backgrounds.
OBS Studio,
Yeah. Then
those
I
really help. But I think majority teachers are not that tech savvy. তো এখানে যেটা হয় যেরকম আমরা যখন স্কুলে ছিলাম তখন I was in class 8. I remember my friends just like they hijacked the classroom. The teacher is like, what are you doing? Stop it, Aishay. And meanwhile, they're like gorillas dancing. There's a huge video of it in the screenshot. So it was, I think it's funny, but I also feel like teachers have to go through a lot, time to adjusting and getting equipped with it.
Because you were teaching offline throughout your life. All of a sudden, you are asked to teach online. How would you feel? I understand. And I know that senior teachers, old teachers faced a lot of problems. Okay. We did not, because we were more acquainted with technology and we figured out a way.
Yeah.
And that also gave rise to the new breed of teachers like us, right? Students felt that they had to go to more younger teachers to get quality quality classes.
True.
So
এখানে COVID-এ I wanted to ask another, let's say, a business aspected question যে আপনার যদি let's say how many students এর declineটা কিরকম ছিল? Was there a decline even, or did it grow? Like what was it like?
for some, it grew who were doing well, but we were already struggling. So our numbers went down. Okay. And it was pretty bad. But that didn't mean that I'm going to stop. I was like, people don't know how I teach, because most of my students were like, you're a very different teacher and you have this technical aspect to it. And I think you should show the country how this is done. So I felt, okay, every day I'm going to do an online lesson, put it on Facebook, let everyone see, whether it's good, whether it's bad. I was also sick. I had this, problem with cold and cough, but still, I did all these online lessons.
Was that COVID, or it was just like normal COVID?
No, it was just, it wasn't COVID, but I have this problems with cold, runny nose, asthma, right?
I think it's the dust, Bangladesh.
It's a dust allergy. But then every day I posted a lesson, a full-fledged lesson, how I would teach in a classroom using good presentations.
এটা কতদিন কন্টিনিউ করছেন? Like
Throughout the COVID, I posted 250 lessons. Every day it's on my Facebook. Students can go and look it up right now. And
that's a hard thing to do, yeah.
And I built a YouTube channel. My wife thought I was crazy. My wife, my wife still tells me, who watches all those videos? And I'm like, look, see their views and their comments. I think that was a turning point when people started looking at my video and my presentation skills, because I knew my teacher always encouraged me that your presentation skills are very good. Even in England, being an Asian, all my British friends or American friends, they told me that, dude, you have something, your presentation skills are quite advanced, and I think you should enhance this capability that you have. So then, people from the industry started contacting me, like Partho sir, who is one of my closest friend here. We work together. He's my colleague. Then a lot of the greats in the industry.
What do you think are the qualities that makes a good teacher a great teacher? Like, what do you think separates that?
Awareness. You have to be aware what the student wants or what the child wants. Okay. And also, I need to know a bit about your background, which family you come from, what's your financial capability, where did you go which school did you go as a student? Okay, I need to know a lot about you, and then I need to pitch my lesson based on that, right? And in a classroom, you have 15 students, and all those students are very different from each other. Everyone has a different challenge, different background. Okay. So how do you teach them in a classroom who are completely different to each other, but make sure your learning material is relevant? That's where the challenge is. And that's what my master's in education taught me. Okay, or CELTA taught me when I did my English degree at Cambridge. That's what they taught me, right? So I think it's awareness, small things. For example, the other day I was teaching in the university, and I knew right? I mean, in the first minute, I knew that this particular way that I was teaching was not working. So I just shifted.
Okay.
Okay, because I was teaching in a very creative way.
Yeah.
I think students were not connecting to it, so I just went to old school teaching.
Yeah, sometimes that relatability matters a lot.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, interesting. The next topic that I would like to go forward to is about like competitors in the industry, or maybe let's say when you were getting all this highlighted, especially because I think you were doing things differently. Like I
Yeah,
think
we did things very
বাংলাদেশে
differently.
কোনো
Yeah.
বিজনেসই digital marketing, content এগুলোতে focus করে, and I see you doing that all of a sudden like way too much, way too aggressively, and then
Do you think it's bad?
no.
You've been a part of our marketing team. You
Yeah.
are still a part. That's why you're shooting the podcast.
Yeah. So এটা একটা যেরকম গেল, তারপরে let's say hosting different events, taking students out to different places like institutional places, and then changing how classrooms should be, learning spaces. এই জিনিসগুলো যে আপনি করতেছিলেন, like what type of comments did you get, especially from your competitors? What was their reaction like? Were they open to it? Were they supportive? And actually what happened? I'm very curious to know যে এই competition angle টা কিরকম ছিল?
So when we started from 2015, we did grab a lot of eyeballs. Our business was not doing good, but people took notice of us because, we focused on branding. Our logo is different. We have a brand identity, brand colors, right? And I was surprised to see how an industry can survive without marketing. Now, it's not necessary that marketing in education works because it's all word of mouth. But then you need to have some kind of, a platform to showcase what you're doing. And it was completely absent. Some of the bigger institutions did it, but it's no way closer to us, what we do it right now.
Yeah.
So we've focused on Facebook and Instagram. That's where our target audience is, right? And Facebook and Instagram is a free platform. So for startups like us, where our marketing budget is nil, I think that's the best way to market. Right? We just hired a designer and we started making content. Our content was rubbish in the beginning. You know it if you go, if you scroll down the Facebook page or Instagram, you can see how bad we were. But then how we analyzed and we thought how we could improve every day. And then especially, in 2019, Arafat joined our team. He was my student. He did O-levels, A-levels with us, IELTS.
He's in Australia right now.
He's in Australia right now, and he's our marketing advisor. And I love to work with young people. I'm so sorry, I'm not used to working with the older generation. I work with young boys and girls like you because I think they're highly creative, innovative, quite very fast. And then he came up with all these ideas, templates. Okay, we should use all these 3 brand colors, these 3 fonts. We should have more attitude. We do not need to look like an education institution. We can be something else. It's okay if we look like a design company. That's the beauty of it, right? So we started trying a lot of things, and competitors took it in a good way. They emulated us, which is good. They encouraged us. They appreciated us. But I think the game changed after 2020. I think after 2020, when COVID happened, I looked inwards and I asked myself, what's going wrong? What we could do to make it better? And it was the teachers. So I had to politely tell all the teachers, look, this is not the kind of institution I want. And we had to let them go. And that's where Partho sir came in.
Yeah.
And he was the one who compiled this team, the team that we have at FES.
So Partho sir is behind all the resource.
Yeah, teachers.
In terms of teachers.
In terms of teachers. So he called me one day and he said, look, I saw your online videos. I really loved it. Can we work together? I said, why not? And we talked for hours. What he wants, what I wanted. And then, we worked on a trial basis. And all these teachers came in, and I think that was the turning point. That was the turning point when things started to look good for FES.
What do you think separates you from all the other coaching centers? Like, let's say there's...
Okay, বন্ধ করেন, সমস্যা নেই.
Okay. So, I wanted to know one more thing is what separates you from your competitors, like the core values? and like definitely there are other coaching centers like right, yeah, so এরকম আরো অনেকগুলো আছে। I think we should bleep this out, but yeah, তো এখানে like what do you think separates you from them, and like core values গুলা কোথায় যেখানে you guys make the biggest difference?
We have a lot of technical knowledge. Where this is where my masters came in handy. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have three core principles. We focus on pedagogy. Pedagogy is the art of learning and teaching. Second, we care about the environment. Right. I hated the coaching center kind of environment. Very dirty, very shabby.
Stacked.
Yeah, smelly, and you have 40, 50 students stacked in one classroom, right? So we wanted to change that narrative, and why not make the place look very cool?
Yeah.
And the third factor that we focused on was personal care, mental health counseling, how we could have small class sizes. If you do not understand in this class sizes, then I can take you to another room, which is a smaller room, and then teach you.
Personalized learning.
Yeah, to make you feel very comfortable. Sometimes students, they are a bit shy in front of 15, 20 or 30 students. They might work well in a smaller class size.
Yeah.
So we focused on those things. I think that's where we were very, very different. These three core principles with marketing, the kind of marketing knowledge that we have, that made very... That was a differential point. But let me tell you something. In Bangladesh, I think now people like things that are very different and unique, or that has a unique selling point.
আগে অ্যাডাপ্টেবিলিটিটা ছিল না।
একদম ছিল না. So when I started, I thought, I created this, great, after school institution. And
তাও কেন মানুষ আসতেছে না?
yeah, and students were like, why does this coaching center looks good? Why is this man, wearing a suit to work? Or why is he...
Maybe there's something wrong.
Yeah, why is he well dressed up? I was asked by a parent, "Chapni keno sundor kapor chapor pore ashen?" And I wanted to, beat myself up. I know, what is this? I'm professional. Because see, if I don't look good, I'm a role model for you, right? As a student, you were my student. So you have to understand that, okay? So there were a lot of sacrifices that we did just to make sure that the industry is looked upon as very professional.
Yeah.
Okay? Very professional, very caring, very honest, right? That's how, we are different.
Let's talk about, let's say, apart from FES, what do you think are the key notable after-school institutions that you think are doing a great work? Or maybe good work?
In Bangladesh?
Yeah.
I think, for example...
Let's have the honest answer here.
No, there are 2-3 good coaching centers. For example, when VH started, I don't know when this started, but they were I think, first ones to institutionalize the coaching center industry. Yeah. One of the first ones, and they are good. I know, many of the teachers from there. They are our friends and acquaintance. We hang up, we meet up, right? We meet up for lunch and dinner, and they're doing a pretty good job. But everyone has a different take. Everyone has different ideologies, and they may feel that we are doing the wrong things. We may feel that it's not appropriate. But after all, everyone has their perspective, and we should acknowledge that and respect that. But there are 2-3 coaching centers who are doing really, really good. But now at this point, there has been a lot of new after-school institutions who are inspired by us, or who are ready to take the challenges, right? Because we have created this framework, this structure. This wasn't there.
But I think এখানে তাও অনেকগুলো প্রবলেম আছে। অনেকে যেরকম
Like what?
For example, I feel like অনেকজন কোচিং সেন্টার খুলতেছে, but the issue is they want to build better learning models, better classrooms. But I think একটা ক্লাসরুমের ডিজাইনের পিছে কোর ফান্ডামেন্টালস বা কি হওয়া উচিত, এই জায়গাটা ওদের অনেক বড় একটা গ্যাপ আছে। লাইক তুমি একটা ক্লাসরুমকে যদি এখন ওই কনভেনশন হলের মতো ডিজাইন করো, তাইলে তো এখানে কেউ পড়বে না।
Yeah.
So I think these are the mistakes they're making. যেরকম I recently saw this one institution. They wanted me to come and help them with their marketing, and they said they have a good classroom and stuff. And I was like, ঠিক আছে দেখি কি
I know which institution you're
হ্যাঁ
talking
তো
about.
মানে it looks like a convention hall, and আমার কথা হচ্ছে তুমি তো এখানে বিয়ে শাদী
Does
করো।
our classroom look like a convention
না
hall?
exactly, it's simple, it's I think মানে key purpose টাই different, so এটাই।
Yeah, so again, see, technical knowledge helps. So I would like to give you a breakdown here. For example, if I'm designing a corporate office or if I'm designing a restaurant, I can use a lot of colors, right? Because, I mean, you go to a restaurant, let's say once a week or once a month. So if you throw in a red color or green color, it's fine. It'll make you feel happy for 1 hour, 2 hours, but you can't do that for an educational institution, right? Because students are going to spend 2 years, 3 years here. Our students here spend a lot of time. They study in this table for 6, 7, 8 hours. So you can't have those loud colors in your walls.
Yeah, I think it ruins with productivity.
Correct. Okay. It creates an obstacle. So this is why, if you look around, see, we have white, off-white, light blue, brown, gray, greeneries. Our classroom is very simple. We have pictures of, people who have achieved a lot in their life, but they're from underprivileged background. There's a scientific theory to it because it motivates you that, if they can do it, I can also do it. So these kind of technical knowledge is missing. Again, coming back to the point, teachers need training. They need to have education, bachelor's in education, master's in education. These things will create a very good industry. So, for example, do you think maybe EdTech is everything about education?
I disagree. I think EdTech is not everything.
Okay.
I feel like education and real touch is still needed.
Okay, now I'll tell you. Now, how it was portrayed without taking any names, because, I know most of them, they're my colleagues, I have great respect for them, but how EdTech was pitched and how EdTech was promoted back in 2015-16, it was as if education is all about EdTech, which is completely wrong. It is just a small part of education.
Yeah.
And when all these online schools were coming in back in 2015-16, which ones I'm talking about, I was very scared. I was intimidated. So I called some of my cousins who went to Dhaka University. They were researchers, and I called them. I said, look, I'm scared because I started an offline institution. If online education takes off, I'm going to fail. So can you do a research for me? I'm a great believer of research, and see what's going to happen to the EdTech market in the next 5 to 7 years. They came back after 2-3 months with a fat book, and they said, Bhaiya, there's nothing to worry about. I said, why?
Yeah.
And they said, EdTech is never going to replace education, offline education, personal education, because students always want a personal human being in front of them. And EdTech will be used complementary, not alternatively. Okay, it's an additional part to offline education or physical education. For example, I'll give you a lecture in the class, I'll teach you, and once you go back, you may have to see my video, or you may have to check out my notes, or you may use our new AI tool, just an example. So it's just a complementary thing to offline or physical education.
It's like, so there's bread, there's butter.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean the butter can replace the bread.
Oh,
the bread's necessary.
I think you've just, hit the point, right? That's how it is. And I was just waiting, when will the students see the reality? And thank you, COVID, because when COVID came, everyone thought offline education will go away. But when schools started opening up,
everyone appreciated schools itself. Yeah. Personally myself, I've been through that. আমার জন্য I think স্কুল ছাড়া শুরুতে ওয়াজ ভেরি ইন্টারেস্টিং, কারণ আমি আমার ওই যে টেক প্রজেক্টস এটসেট্রা এগুলো করতে করতে খুবই ভালো লাগতেছিল। বাট এট দ্য সেম টাইম আই কুড সি যে অ্যাটলিস্ট ওয়াইল আই ওয়াজ ডুইং সামথিং দেয়ার আর অলসো পিপল যারা কিছু করতেছিল না, অ্যান্ড দে ওয়ার ডিগ্রেডিং ডে বাই ডে। আমার ছোট ভাই যদি একটা এক্সাম্পল হিসেবে ইউজ করে, আই থিঙ্ক since he was very small, right?
You have a younger brother?
Yeah. So
how old is he?
He's, I think right now he's 14.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So COVID time, I think he was, 4 years back, he was 10. So একটা 10 বছর ছেলে, what does he have, ওর আসলে ডেইলি লাইফে কি আছে? পড়ালেখা, স্কুলে যাওয়া, ফ্রেন্ডের সাথে হ্যাভিং ফান, বাসায় এসে আবার পড়ালেখা, বাইরে খেলতে যাওয়া, all of it is paused. Where social life, interpersonal relationships with other people, external factors, সব কিছুই তো মানে একটা it got rattled up. And I could see how it affected him. মানে it was a very different change. Like আমি যদি এখন দেখি যে স্টুডেন্টস যারা কোভিডটা ফেস করছে সবচেয়ে বেশি, ওদের অনেক কিছু অনেক ডিফারেন্ট। ইউ উড সি লাইক লেটস সে লার্নিং ক্যাপাবিলিটি, সবকিছুই মানে আই থিঙ্ক ইট হ্যাজ টেকেন আ বিগ টল অন অল অফ
Yeah.
us.
Because we are facing those challenges right now. Because, for example, students who were in grade 6 or 7 during COVID, we have them right now, right? So because if you want to judge a country's knowledge, you look at three things. You look at the language ability, you look at mathematical ability, and you look at reading ability, right? The scores really went down. This is why O-levels, A-level grades were very poor.
And then autopass, I think that had a huge impact as well.
Yes, autopass, even in A-levels, O-levels, we had this, what is it called? There's a particular term that they used, right?
Yeah.
Where students received the grades from the school.
I forgot it, but yeah, schools মানে আগে তো হচ্ছে একটা particular board used to do the grading, but school gradingটা was
British Council gave them the authority to grade their own students in the school. I think a lot of students who did not, who were not capable.
A lot of people took advantage of this.
Yeah, because who were not capable of getting A's ended up getting A's, and they started going to university, and ultimately. Some of them even they were suspended because they did not match up to their level. So it created these things, they create a distorted marketplace.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you're not going there for the right reason, right? So a distorted marketplace, it creates market failure. Because see, let's go back to that point where we have, teachers where they create a syndicate. They will try to collaborate, coordinate their routine. Okay. Also, students will not judge teachers on the basis of their skills or knowledge, but, my friend's going there. So I will also go there. Or my brother has studied with him. So I will also study with him.
Yeah, I think বাংলাদেশের একটা টিচারদের মানে প্যারেন্টস এবং স্টুডেন্টরা এমন একটা লেগেসি ভ্যালু দেয় as if it's এই টিচারটা হার্ভার্ড, এই টিচারটা স্ট্যানফোর্ড, but it's not the case.
Yeah, correct.
New teachers pop up, you have to explore. মানে এই জায়গাটা একটা সমস্যা যায়। I think BIT-তে there is a trend যে আমরা একটা স্পেসিফিক টিচারের কাছে ম্যাথস এন্ড ফিজিক্সের জন্য যাচ্ছি for a very long time. He is a great teacher, right? But that is not where the issue is. The issue is just স্টুডেন্টসরা যে blindly follow করতেছে, that is where the problem is. The main problem in this country is people are not asking enough questions. Similarly, students are not asking enough questions. যে কেন আমি ম্যাথস পড়তেছি, কেন আমি আর্টস পড়তেছি না, কেন আমি এই টিচারের কাছে পড়ছি, they don't ask themselves, they just follow. I think that's the core fundamental issue in our education system as well as with our people.
Absolutely, and these things, they create market failure. So all the students are going to teachers who are not capable and for other reasons, and good companies or good organizations, they're left out. So this is actually called market failure, and we had to bear that. We had to, cope up with it for the first 4-5 years until, and then when people started knowing us, that was the point when they started coming in. But I think this is common for all industries, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Let's talk about the school systems, like how the traditional schools are like, and what is your take যে আসলে বাংলাদেশের স্কুল যেভাবে চালাচ্ছে, like let's মানে dissect যে একটা স্কুলের actually বাংলাদেশের common fundamental flaws কি কি. I feel like that's an interesting
you
topic.
tell me, you just graduated from a school, or you are,
so let's start. I think আমি যদি আমার স্কুলের কথাই বলি, I graduated from, but এখানে যেরকম আমি ক্লাস 8 পর্যন্ত পড়ছি, তারপরে I went to academia, and that's where I did my O levels and A levels, but I saw my friends graduate from. The main issue is আমি যখন ক্লাস 7-এ 8-এ যখন ফিজিক্স পড়তেছিলাম, I remember this incident. This is an incident which will cause some commotion, I feel like, but it's fine. So there was a teacher, and সে ক্লাসে he was teaching us যে অক্সিজেন and হাইড্রোজেন mix হয়ে একটা engine combustion হয়. So for jet engines especially, এগুলো rocket launchers, তারপরে এই যে fighter jets এগুলোতে থাকে. So the teacher comes in the class and goes like, the Z engine vibrates. If you say something like that, imagine how the students will take it. If you're teaching in একটা English medium school যেখানে আমি বেতন দিচ্ছি মাসে 20,000 টাকা, and this is the quality of my teacher, আমার কথা হচ্ছে একটা মানুষের কতটুকু শিক্ষিত হইতে পারে যে সে একটা জেট ইঞ্জিন ভাইব্রেটস বলতে পারে না, সে জ্যাড ইঞ্জিন ভাইব্রেটস বলতেছে।
Yeah.
And when students started laughing, the teacher took it personally and started hitting one of my friends, ঠিক আছে? He just took him up, pushed him in the wall. So মানে এরকম একটা ইনসিডেন্ট স্কুলে হয়। So মানে, and that's like one of the top schools here in English medium. So schools there, I think they really need to upgrade teachers and staffing.
So see, teachers training. It all
Yeah.
boils down to that. And you know what? This is an English medium curriculum, right? British curriculum, O levels at Excel, O levels at Excel, Cambridge. But most of the teachers speak in Bengali while teaching those subjects. How can you do that? Because the content is in English.
Yeah.
The student is going to give exam in English. So the medium of instruction also needs to be in English.
I think ekhane I've seen both. Like I've seen really great teachers, especially like I had this English literature teacher. She was absolutely crazy. She studied in UK.
Okay.
So she had that enriching experience in
Okay.
literature. So when she was talking about stories or like notable novels like Julius Caesar and like Greek mythology, I think I had a huge interest for topics like that. And she had a way, for me, developed. I was very bad in English. Still
Okay.
am, I would say. But এতটুকু থাকতাম না if it wasn't for her. She
That's
helped
great.
me. So কিছু teachers are really good, but I think overall একটা teacher analysis করা উচিত প্রত্যেকটা স্কুলের যে কোন ডিপার্টমেন্টস ডিভিশনস আসলে কিরকম একটা স্ট্রং হোল্ড আছে। ঠিক আছে, লেটস সে হইতেই পারে যে কিছু ডিপার্টমেন্টস একটা স্কুলের উইক, which is fine. Focus on improving.
But also school, ওরা তো profit maximize করতে
Yeah,
চায়,
and
Mehdi.
teachers are very underpaid, and it's sad. Like let's say I remember at a point I heard paying 27,000 টাকা to একটা teacher. 27,000 টাকা আমি I think এখন আমার নিজের লাইভলিহুডই it's not enough. For
Yeah.
me, I think I need more. Because
This is why
transport is 10,000 taka per month.
This is why they recruit fresh graduates, because
Yeah.
they will be happy with 27 or 30,000.
And that's
okay?
everywhere. That's in I think Surgeon Wilson is a bit different, but like if you talk about Scholastica or let's say Maple Leaf, Mastermind, they all follow this conservative expenses and trying to keep their overheads.
Also, do we have any other options? Is there a supply of good trained teachers? No. So this infrastructure is missing, Mehdi. Okay.
Teacher actor factor, but I think other issue with schools is, let's talk about developing students that
Okay.
they develop. Classes যেগুলো পড়াইতেছে, I don't see any practical use of it. The amount of money they're charging, I think this is something they can offer.
Yeah.
For me, class 7A, we learned about HTML and CSS. So those who don't know, HTML and CSS is a coding language or a programming language. Yeah, it's used to build websites. এখন এটা যে শিখাইছে আমাদের যে টিচার ছিল সে নিজে এটা ঠিক মতো পারতো না, and he or she was a CSC graduate. But এই জিনিসটা like আমি personally explore করছি, I found it really interesting. But I feel like my classmates missed out on this big time. And those are the people যারা let's say একটা দিন এক সময় গ্র্যাজুয়েট করে এখন CSC পড়তে যাবে, not knowing how programming languages function, how they do. So they're actually not trained for the real life. কিন্তু majority schools এর এই প্রবলেমটা যে স্টুডেন্টসদের যে গ্রোথটা, you need to set up students for successes. You need to set up
Absolutely.
students for the future. এখানে they are setting up students for A levels and O levels.
Yeah.
That's the benchmark.
That's a benchmark.
That's the
Yeah.
problem. Like
Yeah.
you don't set up a student for O level, A level. You set up a student for something যে ওরা বড় হয়ে কিছু একটা করবে
For life.
for life.
Yeah.
So e-learningটা নাই। তারপরে আমি যদি বলি স্কুলে I think এই যে bully, racism এগুলো কোনো mitigation নাই, কিছু নাই. There are no frameworks in place to deal with it. I myself personally got bullied and I also bullied. এখানে there is no sugarcoating here, but I saw that there are nothing is done to control this. Teachers are supposed to don't disturb him, okay, ya kore na. But that is not how you lack of teacher training. But arekta jodi jayga ashe, that is clubs, activities, ECS. বাইরের দেশে একটা 19-year-old Silicon Valley তে একটা প্রসেসরের কোম্পানি করে রেজ লাইক $50 million, $100 million এরকম করতেছে,
Because they have vocational education in place.
হ্যাঁ।
Yeah.
আমাদের দেশে একটা স্টুডেন্ট ঠিকমতো কথা বলতে পারে না।
Correct.
So that is a huge issue. Like when you talk about public speaking skills, There are people যারা ওই যে MUN এ গিয়ে যায় হচ্ছে গিয়ে to do like other stuff instead of doing actual MUN debates.
Yes.
So আমি যখন MUN করতে গেছিলাম I thought MUN is going to be a fun thing. গিয়ে দেখতেছি যে একটা let's say এখানে তো একটা স্পেসিফিক এজেন্ডা থাকে যেটা নিয়ে সবাই ডিসকাস করেন there are countries assigned to each people. 30 জন মাত্র কথা বলছে 3-4 জন মিলে ডিবেট করতেছে 3-4 জনের মধ্যে একজন জিতে মনে করেন সব ইনস্টাগ্রাম স্টোরি দিতেছেন সবকিছু মানে তো এটা কেমনি MUN হলো বাকি 30 জনের পার্টিসিপেশনটা কই কিছু না ইটস জাস্ট মানে ইটস আ প্রম শো এটা MUN কেন বলো ইটস উইয়ার্ড সো এই যে ক্লাব ডেভেলপমেন্ট অ্যাক্টিভিটি গুলো কিছুই নাই barely recently schools are getting like swimming pools এর আগে এগুলো this were never a thing সেটা বুঝলাম why don't you develop sports বাইরের দেশে এই যে মানুষ মনে করে আইভি লিগে পড়তে যাব আইভি লিগ কিন্তু it's not because of education it's because of sports
extracurricular co-curricular activities
it's like 8 top universities যারা combine হয়ে they form this league যেখানে sports খেলতেছে of all different categories basketball swimming football cricket etc
right
আমাদের এখানে স্পোর্টস ডেভেলপ করছে না we're not building athletes we're only focused on building two things engineers who cannot build anything developers who cannot develop shit and businessmen who actually don't know what business is they only know let's say Pessel's analysis they all know these theoretics but when you talk about building a business so এই জায়গাগুলোতে I think is that there's a huge gap so মানে let's say if I was the headmaster of a school really sorry যে অনেক র্যান্ট যাচ্ছে but let's say if I was what I would do is একটা স্কুল I would introduce একটা specific clubs একটা to develop athletes arekta it's something that should be common life skills communication public speaking skills then there should be conscience there are students who grow up do drugs end up doing a lot of bad stuff that's because school conscience bole kono ekta jinish build kora hoy na I don't see a single chapter in my school after class 5 that talks about conscience you cannot build conscience ekta class 5 er student to do because he is not mature enough to understand class 9 10 these are shaping these are time when you shape a student you mold them for the future so each time the conscience is very important but এটা কিন্তু build করা হয় না the right wrong but actually life এর perspective টা কি হওয়া উচিত purpose কি students are lost and এখানে একটা huge research drain হচ্ছে and এই স্টুডেন্ট গুলাই they are like দেশে কিছু করার নাই এই নাই এখানে স্কুলের একটা সমস্যা আছে স্কুলরা কিন্তু চাইলেই অপরচুনিটি ক্রিয়েট করতে পারে বাংলাদেশে যদি টপ 10 স্কুলস একসাথে যদি কোলাবরেট করে একটা আইভি লিগের মতো আসে যেখানে আমরা অ্যাথলিট ডেভেলপ
absolutely
তখন কি হচ্ছে যে অ্যাটলিস্ট যারা এখন হইতেই পারে যে আমি একটা আমার খেলতে ভালো লাগে আমার পড়তে ভালো লাগে না বাট ডাজন্ট মিন যে আই এম আ ব্যাড স্টুডেন্ট ইটস জাস্ট মাই স্পেশালাইজেশন ইজ
exactly
সো এটা ডেভেলপ করা হোক এখন যার সিএসসি বা কম্পিউটার ভালো লাগে ওর তো স্বাভাবিক আর্টস ভালো লাগবে না ডাজন্ট মিন ইউ গ্রেড হিম অন আর্টস ইউ গ্রেড হিম অন সামথিং এলস সো ওর জন্য স্কোপটা থাকা উচিত বাট আই ফিল লাইক পুরো জিনিসটা একটা জেনারেলাইজড ভার্সন যেখানে স্পেশালাইজেশনের জন্য চিন্তা কেউ করতেছে না এখন বলতেই পারি ইউনিভার্সিটিজ ওয়্যার ইউ গো এন্ড স্পেশালাইজ বাট ইফ দ্যাট ওয়াজ দ্য কেস
I think that's too late
yeah
because that's where we came in so our third factor was personal care counseling right so you get to know the students what are their strengths
counseling I forgot to add that that's a very big point
so we try to know what are the core strengths of a student core weaknesses of a student you might not be good in science but you're very good in business so let's focus on that and what can we do in the future okay and students they always have abilities and you know knowing science subjects ki bondo korbo
ঠিক আছে
কি রে ভাই কথা তো so you know there is this misconception of there's a misconception around that if you take science subjects you're very intelligent and parents force you to take science subjects chem physics bio you know I'll add to what you said if you become a doctor engineer or a pilot then only you're going to do good in your career. If you study business, you're not an intelligent student. If you, like, you know, my friends, my distant relatives, they made fun of me when I chose masters in education. They were like, what are you doing with your life? You should do an MBA or you should do something more, you know, STEM related. But I was quite sure, you know, because also you shouldn't do something that's very common. I knew that there was a gap in this industry. So if I had that relevant knowledge and skills, I could do a lot. I think more than 90% of the teachers are not trained, and that's what made us, stand out. So at the end of the day, for kids, we should always suggest them by thinking about the future, what's going to happen in the next 10 years. I studied marketing because I still remember my father told me he's into marketing, and he's like, social media marketing is going to be a big thing in the future. Marketing will play a key role in developing organizations and institutions. So you should have a degree in marketing. And he specifically told me back in 2008, focus on digital marketing.
Yeah.
Okay. So he was quite forward thinking, and I listened to his advice, and I thoroughly enjoyed when I studied marketing and business, in Leicester. And that is missing what you were heavily criticizing the schools, right? So that is actually missing. So, teachers and students should sit down and talk about what's good, what's bad.
একটা জিনিস হচ্ছে যে স্টুডেন্টদের মধ্যে একটা কালচার বিল্ড হয়, লাইক দোজ লাইক ও মাই গড দিস ইজ দেম, ও শিট, লাইক মানে স্কুলে একটা স্টুডেন্টসদের একটা আই থিঙ্ক
Peer pressure, okay.
idolizing other. I mean, come on, y'all are in the same batch, same students. Look at each other respectfully. No one's bigger than anyone. Everyone's equal. Mentality.
Everyone's journey is different, right?
Yeah, journey is different, and I feel like যেরকম আমাদের স্কুলে বা অন্য স্কুলে I see like let's say যারা ফুটবল টিমের ক্যাপ্টেন্স থাকে, why? Because let's say they're the favorite guy, they're the guy যারা ভালো খেলে. But এটার পিছেও that guy is also like sometimes it has a key role in deciding যে কে ফুটবল টিমে খেলতেছে, কে খেলতেছে না, যে ফেভারিটিজম।
Right, yeah.
এই জায়গাগুলোয় টিচারদের আরো বেশি ইনভলভড হইতে হবে to mitigate
Absolutely.
এটা নিয়ে I feel like teachers are unbothered.
No, because there is this student-teacher relationship dynamics, okay? Culturally in Bangladesh, what happens, if you're a student, you have zero power, and I have 100% of the power. That's where things are going wrong. So the power needs to be distributed equally. You should have 50% power. I should have 50% power in the classroom or in the learning spaces.
Yeah.
So what it does is that I am treating you as an individual, as an adult. So you have a say in everything. So my students can tell me anything that they want, irrespective of what I am.
Yeah.
Okay. And that builds a very cordial relationship. But in Bangladesh, what teachers does is, okay, how can we embarrass the students? How can we put them down? How can we scold them in front of everyone?
They feel like it's working, but I think in reality
No.
it's not.
It demolishes your confidence, right? Okay, so you really need to, treat them like adults. I'll tell you a story. I think we were doing a photo shoot for Faces of FES campaign 4-5 months back. Riaz Bhai was here. And one of the student, I think, was having problem, and she texted on WhatsApp, and she was very rude. And I did not say anything, because studentরা তো বেয়াদবি করবে, ওটা তো ওদের বয়সী. She's just 17, 18, 19 probably, okay? So there's no point in scolding.
Was it regarding the photo shoot?
No, she did not want to come. I wasn't forcing her, but then, she was trying to say something, and probably that came out very rude. And I did not say anything at all. I just said one thing, that if I were you, I wouldn't have said that. Just one line. It's there in my WhatsApp chat. And then the student thought I was going to scold her the next day. And when she came in, I forgot about it. And we never spoke about it. And then she told to one of her TAs that, sir didn't even speak about the incident. And our TAs was like, yeah, we don't focus on these things. We focus on positivity. It's your opinion, and we value your opinion. So I think teachers need to value everyone's opinion. And you can learn so much from students, right? From young people. Because at FES, we have a very young team, and a lot of students work for us, right? In the marketing department. Tosif is just 20 years old. Arafat probably, 26, 27. A new guy is joining in. He's also very young. So Gen Z, or the young generation, do not like these traits, embarrassing and, calling out names and kota dawa, talking about family. I think these are these are things of the past. These are from the dinosaur era that we need to get rid of, and think about how we could deal with them more respectfully. So it was an eye opener when I went abroad. And I was amazed to see how teachers, they respect you. Because, I'll tell you an incident. I was smoking in in our campus, and one of our professors saw me, and I was trying to hide the cigarette.
Yeah.
And he came towards me, he said, "You're not disrespecting me. It's totally okay. You can smoke. And it's out of the classroom and it's your right. But look, see, this is not good for your health. Now, if you think that my advice is valuable, you'll take it, otherwise you will not."
Yeah.
And it really opened my eyes and how to behave.
Approach. Like in an approach like this, your teacher or like your professor, she got a course I think which are notable. Like address the situation, but address it with respect, where the person doesn't feel like a victim. Like, let's say that was you, so you didn't feel like you were a victim. You didn't feel like you were being scolded on. All you felt like was he was addressing the situation in a respectful manner. You can do it, তোমার ইচ্ছা, but আমার মনে হয় যে স্বাস্থ্যের জন্য ঠিক। That's how it should be. আমাদের কি হচ্ছে, তোমার আম্মাকে আমি কল দিতেছি, মানে দিস টাইপ অফ থিংস এক হচ্ছে যে ইট রুইনস একটা স্টুডেন্টস এক্সপেকটেশন। হয় কি পরে এই স্টুডেন্টগুলো আরো বেশি ব্যাধ হয়ে যাচ্ছে, and later on down the line এটাকে আর কন্ট্রোল রাখা যাচ্ছে না, because how many times can you call their parents?
Right.
একটা পয়েন্ট একটা child grows up, they come out of their parents guidance, and মানে এই ফ্রিডমটা একটা চলে আসে by the time like
I think after 15-16 you're pretty much independent, right?
তখন ওই তোমার আম্মুকে কল দেবে কতদিন কাজ করে, and তখন what do you have apart from like I feel like abuse and violence, মানে তখন তো মাইন্ড ছাড়া আর কিছু নাই।
And you can't do that with a kid who's grown up so much, right? Now, also, you tell me, I've seen teachers and parents picking on students or their children regarding haircut, regarding clothes. Are they necessary to educate our children? Do they have anything to do with education? Because, last night I was conversing with some of our students, and some of the girls, they were complaining about it. They pick us on our clothes and they talk about how we look. They talk about our hairstyle. And I had a similar situation with my dad. Back in the days, in A-levels, there was a haircut which was very popular, spiky. So I cut my hair really short, and some of the hairs in the front, they were standing. And I remember he came home very late, and he saw I was sleeping, but he saw me that I had that haircut. He woke me up at 2 a.m. and he thrashed me left and right. And my mom was so angry. My mom was pissed, and she was like, he's such a brilliant student. He's always come first. He made us proud. But what does haircut has to do with his education? This is just I still remember my mom pointing out that it's just a phase. You're growing up. I was 16. I'm going to be a bit gothic or rebellious. Yeah.
Since we're talking about like clothes, attire, styles, and also like discipline, I feel like discipline is academic.
Like punctuality.
Yeah.
Like punctuality should be taught.
But like outfit, attire, actually there's no right or wrong. There's this terminology that we push common day human life, that is একটা হচ্ছে right or wrong, একটা হচ্ছে civilized not civilized.
Correct.
Civilized not civilized are frameworks যেটা আমরা নিজেরা as humans build করছি for our comfort.
You're saying what's acceptable and what's not acceptable.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So a civilized not civilized আমরা build করছি is basically for our comfort to live in a society while we can expect that this is the norm, because we as humans we don't like unpredictability. So যেটা হচ্ছে যে that's how we distinct ourselves. So we created a framework, but that doesn't mean it's right or wrong. একজন যদি punctual বা punctual না, এখানে right or wrong is different. It's about everyone's following a time. They're coming here to train. Everyone's time is valuable, so you're not respecting someone's time. It's not right or wrong. It's about, are you maintaining the discipline? So parents are actually discipline, civilized, not civilized, right or wrong, এই কয়েকটা aspects কে mix up করে
They've mixed it up completely.
ওদের narrative এ push করে. So let's say if someone's coming to class and they're on time, they're good students, হয় কি, this is an age, let's say O levels, A levels, where us students, we like to try different things. It's not like Uita is something we'll do. We just want to see what it feels like. We want to see like what wearing shorts in a class feels like. For example, I got a lot of complaints when I wore shorts, right? So
I don't care.
যেরকম আজকে আমি shorts পরে আসছি, right? So
I asked you to wear shorts, right?
yeah, so I remember আমি একবার shorts পরে গেছিলাম, আমাকে ক্লাসে ঢুকতে দেয়নি. So এখানে যেটা religious aspect is something, yes you can push it, but I feel like তাহলে তুমি তোমার সাইনবোর্ডে লিখে রাখো যে I'm a very religious person, I maintain religious decorums of let's say this religion. So but why is a short bad? মানে আমি বুঝতাম if my short was distracting someone, if my shorts was completely wet, it was smelly, something, মানে anything odd, as long as it didn't create any disturbance. What is that factor that made you feel like the short is a problem? So these are things which I question যে আসলে এই রুলস গুলো কোত্থেকে আসে, কে বানায়?
Oh, it's culture. It's not just acceptable for students to wear shorts. Okay, there's no reason behind it, and I find it illogical as well. My students can wear shorts and come in. You've done it many times. Today I asked you to wear a short, right? I wish I could teach wearing shorts because we have to teach long hours, right? 10-12 hours. Sometimes, I tell my students.
এখন এখানে যেটা কি একটা হচ্ছে যে হ্যাঁ আমি শীতকালে শর্টস পরে আসলাম, এটা পাগলামি, বাট এখানে the environment is so humid.
We live in a hot weather.
So hot and climate change is getting worse. মানে এখানে একটা হচ্ছে যে এই যে আমি যদি 8-10 ঘন্টা আমি যদি কাজ করি বা I want to stay focused, I want to study. Maybe being comfortable is a key aspect because that helps me stay focused.
And productivity efficiency increases.
Exactly. So I feel like teachers যদি এগুলাকে discipline বানায়, যদি এগুলোর উপর এই যে comments etc করে, all it does is 2-3 things. এক হচ্ছে যে টিচারের যে respect সেটা জাস্ট কমাচ্ছে, স্টুডেন্টরা আস্তে আস্তে
You think that diminishes over time?
এটা একটা ইস্যু। আর একটা হচ্ছে যে স্টুডেন্টসরা তখন আসলে রেসপেক্ট আস্তে আস্তে কমতে থাকে, বাট এর চেয়েও সবচেয়ে বড় ফ্যাক্টরটা কি, স্টুডেন্টস দেমসেলভস দে লাইক মানে দে আর নট এবল টু এক্সপ্রেস দেমসেলভস। সো এই যে অ্যাবিলিটি টু এক্সপ্রেস সামওয়ান, এখানে অ্যাকচুয়ালি দ্য মেইন কোর মেসেজ is in life you have to try like 100 different things, turns out you'll only like 10, and those 10 are things that you'll stick to.
We don't let
that.
the students experiment.
We try 15 things that our parents tell us, and we stick to those 15 things, and then at the end of our lives we sometimes question the 15 things, were this worth it, etc.
Or then you end up regretting.
That creates that midlife, I think, crisis, existential crisis. I
didn't know this existed. Why didn't I try it before?
এই regret মানে এই জিনিসটা I think স্টুডেন্টরা ফেস অনেক বেশি করে, and that is also another big reason যে ওদের লাইফে পারপাসটা থাকে না, because পারপাসটা তো আরেকজন খাওয়াই দিচ্ছে, and that is not your purpose. Your purpose is defined by only you and no one else. So এই জিনিসটা is very important. So so এখন let's dive into another topic. I think we're gonna shortly end the entire conversation.
So is it the last?
Hopefully last conversation. So we've talked about schools, we've talked about coaching centers, we've talked about how you started, your business hurdles, sab kichu. I would like to ask, like, let's say to a student who's studying in O levels or A levels, how do they carve out their future? How do they decide ki korte hobe? How do they come to that decision making ability? How do they decide to convince their parents? এই যে জার্নিটা, যে আমি কোন ইউনিভার্সিটিতে যাব, কেন এই স্পেসিফিক জিনিসটা পড়বো, চুজিং দ্য রাইট সাবজেক্ট, আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং দ্য রাইট ক্যারিয়ার পাথ, and the pressure, like এই টাইমে আমি বলি প্রেশারটা যত না থাকে তার চেয়ে বেশিটা মনে হয় বিকজ প্যারেন্টস এটা ওভাবে এক্সার্ট করা হয়। সো এই জিনিসটাকেও ডিল করা, বুঝা, what do you think একটা স্টুডেন্ট শুড ডু?
So I do have a Venn diagram in one of my presentations. So it's a mix of everything. First of all, as a student, you should look inwards and ask yourself what you're good at, what you're passionate at. As you stated before, students are picking subjects that their parents are asking them to pick. And I think that's not the right way of doing so, right? So what are you good at? If you're good at bio, please pick bio. If you're good at photography, go for photography, or music. That's fine. Also see what your parents want, because at the end of the day, they are your parents. You came to this world because of them. They have more knowledge, they have more experience. Just get some information from them.
Yeah, like
right?
I feel like they come photography, right? So I once saw my mom like photography seems really interesting because since I work in marketing, I had to work with this amazing dude. He's Ornama Choni, and or নিজের একটা studio আছে. He studied in Malaysia, Lim Kok Win on like bachelor on photography, arts and stuff. So ও যেভাবে ফটোগ্রাফিটা তো এনজয় করে every day when he's working, you can see it in his eyes. He earns a good ton of money, like
Because he's passionate about it.
And monthly he earns, let's say, 3-4 lakhs easily, and he has worked with some of the top brands in Bangladesh like Anzara, Zurham. Like he has a huge portfolio. So এখানে যেটা যে when I told my mom, she was like, তুই বড় ফটোগ্রাফার হবি, মানে that is মানে she's my mom, I respect her and everything, but I feel like এই perceptionটা প্যারেন্টসদের থাকবে.
It's
But we as students, we need to learn how to deal with it better.
yeah.
So either
Be more diplomatic, be more subtle. So parents' help is required because otherwise, because in Bangladesh we are most of the time.
Counseling plays a big role.
Counseling plays a big role, and then you have to see what the market demands. So it's like a Venn diagram, 3 circles. What you are good at, what you're passionate at, what your parents
Ikigai,
want.
right? It's like
Yeah. And then what the market wants. Okay, so it's a very good mixture of these 3 things because if you don't acknowledge what the market wants, then you may end up with a skill that's not required in the future. Like my father asked me that you should study marketing, digital marketing, right? These things are quite important. So this is how they could handle. But then coming back to the parents thing, I think in Bangladesh, this may sound very controversial, but I think the older generation did not age well. I'll tell you why. And, you've asked me my struggles with this company, and listen to this very carefully. When I started this company, no older generation supported me properly because there was a huge gap. Because technology has updated so much in the last 10-15 years. It's so advanced. Our older generation did not have the chance to retrain themselves. If you go to America, or if you go to UK, or even if you go to Thailand, older generation coped up well with those changes. But our generation is clueless. This is also why you see in Bangladesh a lot of big companies has failed in the last 3 to 5 years, right? Because they were not changing with times, and that old format was still going on. Many big companies, I don't want to name any of them, but they were running with people who are 55 years old, 60 years old, but technology has changed. AI has come in.
I mean, a Borat example is Nokia itself. Like it was so big and everything. Yeah.
Because they were not probably fast and training the younger generation with technology, right? So our
future thinking, what is very important. Like
absolutely, and this is why I think we have a huge gap with our mother, with our parents actually, and the way the world has developed in the last 10-15 years, our parents could not cope up with the change, or leaders of different institutions, let's say, who are 60 or above 60 years old, they probably do not have the right idea about how to, go about things. And that's a big problem. So this is why we want to see young people in top positions, which would make things more easier, more faster.
Please continue.
No, because I've worked with many of them who are in the 50s and 60s, and they're very slow. We work very fast, and that upsets me. Okay, because time is money, time is ticking. In order to establish one thing, they will do 5 meetings. Even after 5 meetings, the solution is not there.
Yeah.
But you and I, we just talked about the podcast probably 10 days back, right?
Yeah.
And boom, look at our setup, right? So this is how fast and efficient we need to be.
I want to move forward. So if a student wants to pick a subject, so you mentioned there should be like passion, what the market wants, and the other thing is
what your family wants. Okay, that should be there. Yes, our family is sometimes very resistive to change, but then as you
I think
pointed out,
rebellious hot or shikhata is a big factor. But
I am very rebellious.
Yeah.
But I'm lucky, in that way, my parents never stopped me doing anything. They said, whatever you want to study.
Same, I think I would agree that from my parents. I think
your parents are very supportive.
I think আমি যেরকম আমার A levels একটু পিছায় গেছে, I was doing other stuff, but parents, they will say stuff, but they still support. Like I remember when I started my business, I remember my mom giving me just এক লাখ টাকা তুই কর, তুই যেটা ভালো লাগে তুই কর.
But don't you think that, you took a gap in between. I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
But working with me, working with different entrepreneurs, starting your own company, working for other companies, you've gained an immense amount of corporate and
Yeah.
life skills, right?
So ekhane I would like to actually add certain things. I think these are controversial stuff. So since I'm working in Tiger Media right now, like I think we have worked with people jara university grads chilo, even people from IBA. I've worked beside and আগে আমি তো আইবিএ থেকে পড়ে আসছে কত ট্যালেন্টেড লাইক কাজ করার পর মনে হচ্ছে যে আই থিঙ্ক দে আর অলসো হিউম্যান বিংস ওরা পড়াশোনা অনেক ভালো ছিল একটা কম্পিটিশন ছিল সো উইচ হেল্প দেম প্রিপেয়ার বেটার বাট আমি এই টাইমে এত কিছু করে যা যা শিখছি আই ফিল লাইক একটা IBA 4-year গ্র্যাজুয়েট ক্যান নট বিট মি এনি সিঙ্গেল অ্যাসপেক্ট বিকজ আমার এই প্র্যাকটিক্যাল এক্সপিরিয়েন্সটা অনেক বেশি এবং এখানে লেটস আমি অনেকগুলো আই হ্যাভ হায়ার্ড গ্র্যাজুয়েটস আই হ্যাভ হায়ার্ড পিপল হু আর 28 29 under my team. I'm leading that team. এখানে I think practical learning is very important. যেটা আসলে এই টাইমটা is the crucial time because এই টাইমটাতে প্রেশার কম because আমি কি করতেছি আমি থাকতেছি আমার আব্বুর বাসায় খাবার দাবার আমার মা রান্না করছে অনেক কমফোর্টেবল আছে gives me a huge scope and time span to actually try different things.
Absolutely.
So এইটাকে ইউটিলাইজ করে যদি আসলে এখানে একটা মেইন ইস্যু হচ্ছে কমিউনিকেশন প্যারেন্টসদের সাথে আমরা
ঠিক আছে
স্যার সো আই ফিল লাইক এই যে আমি এত কিছু করছি অ্যান্ড এভরিথিং সো দিস ওয়ার লাইক টাইমস যেগুলো আমি বের করছি বাই নট স্টাডিং বাট আই ফিল লাইক আই ডোন্ট রিগ্রেট এনি অফ ইট বাট এখানে আমার প্যারেন্টস দে ওয়ার রেজিং কোয়েশ্চেন্স বিকজ এন্ড অফ দ্য ডে মাই প্যারেন্টস অলসো ওয়ান্ট ওয়াটস গুড ফর মি অ্যান্ড আই থিঙ্ক ব্রাউন হাউস হোল্ড একটা জিনিস কি আমরা যত না
I like the term brown.
সো আমরা যত না অ্যাম্বিশাস আমাদের বাপ মারা আরো বেশি অ্যাম্বিশাস মানে
Yeah.
আমি যদি চিন্তা করতেছি যে
They're
I
very
want to be
ambitious.
a millionaire when I grow up they are already imagining billionaire so মানে that's like the expectation they set so এখানে communicating what you want what are your expectations in life with parents is very tough আমি আমার আম্মুর সাথে কথা বললে যে জিনিস লাগছে আমি আপনার সাথে কথা বলতে গিয়ে আমি খেপবো না আমি আমার আম্মুর সাথে আমি গেটিং ফ্রাস্ট্রেটেড কেন বুঝতেছো না লাইক আই গেট ওয়ার্কড আপ অ্যান্ড আই থিঙ্ক এই জায়গাটা বোঝা যে আসলে প্যারেন্টসও ভালো চায় জাস্ট বুঝাইতে হয় একটা প্যারেন্টকে যে দেখো আম্মু আই গেট ইউ বাট দিস ইজ হোয়াট আই ওয়ান্ট টু ডু প্লিজ লেট মি যদি না হয় আই উইল ফলো হোয়াট ইউ ওয়ান্ট মানে এই যে এই মোড অফ কমিউনিকেশন দের আর লট অফ ফ্রেন্ডস অফ মাইন্ড যারা লেটস সে ও A2 গ্র্যাজুয়েট করছে ঠিক আছে so and they're gonna go to unis in Canada and like Australia and we're like guys let's do one last road trip let's go to Gazipur just for one day and come back not even stay and their parents are like they're like abba mo raji hoy na এখানে কিন্তু ওর বাবার দোষ না দোষ ওর you know why because he's not a great salesman because he doesn't know how to communicate well so এখানে how do you sell your parents মানে I remember I had to sell my mom যে দেখো আমি এগুলো করবো না মানে হয় কি আমরা যখন এইসব জায়গায় যাই প্যারেন্টসদের মেইন কোয়েশ্চেনটা কোথায় যে দে আর সাসিং যে আমরা হয়তো উই আর গোনা ডু ব্যাড স্টাফ লাইক লেটস সে ড্রিঙ্ক অর লাইক ইউ নো পার্টি এটা কিন্তু আমার আম্মুর মাথায় যদি থাকে শি ওয়ন্ট অ্যাড্রেস ইট শি উইল হ্যাভ ডাউট আমি এই ডাউটটা ক্লিয়ার করে ফেলছি সো ইউ কমিউনিকেট ডাউটস
Yeah.
সো এই যে লেটস সে আই ফিল লাইক my friends they weren't able to communicate and most students cannot there are people who can I think it's a time সবাই আস্তে আস্তে একটা পয়েন্টে গিয়ে কমিউনিকেট করে বাট লেটস হোপ ইটস নট টু লেট বিকজ একটা পয়েন্টে গিয়ে যদি আমি ইউনিভার্সিটিতে অ্যাডমিট হয়ে যাই তারপরে আসলেই জিনিসপত্র চেঞ্জ করে স্টাফ বিকজ ইটস নট লাইক আমরা সবাই we have unlimited access to wealth wealth is limited for everyone so আমি একটা ইউনিভার্সিটি ঢুকলে it's gonna cost me 10 20 30 40 50 lakhs যেটা যদি আমি পুরো ডিসিশনটা রিভার্ট ব্যাক করতে চাই the higher the amount the higher the pressure to revert so ওগুলো বুঝে I think so I think এই জিনিসগুলো establish করা উচিত what do you think can be done to make sure students communicate better with their parents have a healthy relationship with their parents has a great understanding parents ওই mentality আস্তে আস্তে আগাইতে পারে মানে what do you think could be done
Be open. I was very open to my mother. Okay. And
were you a mama's boy
at one point, yeah. But I always spoke the truth.
yeah
She knew what I was doing when I had my first cigarette or my first night out or other embarrassing things. But I also think that these are important part of growing up. You should go for a night out. You should do things that are good and bad both, just to learn. You just can't ask a child or ask a student just to do the good things.
Yeah.
You need to know what failure is, or what are the evils of the society, so that you understand what it takes. But my advice would be just be open with your parents, okay? Because if you can gain their trust, they will trust you more. And this is why my mother never forced me to do something, or never stopped me in doing anything. Okay, she was like, okay, you want to go to UK, fine. You want to go to your friend's house, fine. Ki korba? And I used to tell her, okay, these are the plan. My phone is switched on. You can call me anytime. Or my mother knew that, I used to chill out with my friends. We used to live in Dhanmondi, and there was a spot where we used to chill out. And she knew the spot, and she knew what we were doing because I told her. Right? And it became so easy. Very, very easy.
It becomes easy. Yeah.
And it becomes easy. There's transparency, and my mom knows my limitation, and I also know my mother's instinct. I know where not to piss her off, right?
Yeah.
So you need to hit the right buttons, I think. Being open, being honest will take you a long way. And I have seen some of my students, I've seen some of my family relatives, I've seen my wife having great equation with her parents, and she's also very open and friendly with them, and how that has taken her to a new level, Here, what we do is, bola jabe na, kora jabe na. I think that's the blockage that you're creating in front of you.
Yeah, because let's say if...
Are you open with your mom?
I am somewhat. So let's say... somewhat, because I think certain জায়গা, I think my mom wouldn't understand what I'm doing. For example, কাজের সময় যদি আমি কোনো risky কাজ করে থাকি, let's say sometimes we're dealing in figures which are not something that someone of my age should do. It's risky, like affiliating yourself with political people in certain deals is also risky.
Of course.
So these are things sometimes I have to gatekeep from my mom, so regarding certain things. So oita ase, but emne majority jinish na I'm very truthful and honest.
But this also varies, it varies from
Parent to parent.
Different background of students, because you have upper class, you have middle class, lower middle class, upper middle class, okay? And they all behave very differently in Bangladesh. And again, they behave differently in the Western countries. So it's quite interesting. So we won't go depth into that, because it's a lot to talk about. But yeah, it depends on the demographic and the background.
I have another question. Let's say grades নিয়ে যে প্রেশারটা, এই যে স্টুডেন্টদের মাথায় যে প্রেশার, ফর এক্সাম্পল when I was giving my A levels, আমি তাহাজ্জুদ পড়ছি A levels এর আগে প্রথম।
Really? Good boy.
আমার অনেক anxiety হচ্ছিল অ্যাকাউন্টিং এক্সামের দিকে, আমি নামাজ পড়ে গেছি, দোয়া করছি সেই, and it's like it felt like, how it felt like, let me tell you a bit more about that. It's like আমার লাইফে I have been studying for 10 years, right? Let's say class 1 থেকে 10 পর্যন্ত ধরি।
That's a long time. We need to change that. We need to reduce it.
হ্যাঁ, so এই যে 10 বছর আমি পড়ছি, I haven't done anything good. Like I was in section B, so B তে যেরকম grading is like A তে হচ্ছে top students, B তে mediocre, C তে is like low. So I was always in like B, sometimes in A, sometimes in B again. So আমার কাছে বুঝে চলে, like I have never made my parents proud. একবার করে দেখি। O levels I did good. I would say I had like all A stars and 1 A. So যেটা হচ্ছে যে my parents were very happy. ঠিক আছে, Edexcel high achievers award পাইলাম, everything. But রেজাল্টটা পাওয়ার পরের 5 দিন আমি খুশি ছিলাম, but the entire year afterwards I was questioning এত হার্ড ওয়ার্ক করলাম is for the validation of external factors.
Yeah.
Personally, internally আমার কোনো validation,
which doesn't mean anything to yeah.
So হয়েছে কি, এসে ওঠার পর I started pursuing what I wanted to do, and তখন আমার grades was like I had U in physics, I had an E in business, luckily I had an A in accounting, and like B in maths.
Okay.
So I feel like accounting and maths আমার জন্য was something যেটা আমি by default না পড়েও প্র্যাকটিসে থেকে পারতে পারতাম, but physics যেরকম it's very tough. Business যেটা হচ্ছে যে এটা অনেক you need to study a lot, you need to write a lot, and you need to communicate and write in like clear language. So আমার জন্য that was also a tough thing, because আমার লিখতে বেশি ভালো লাগতো না. So yeah, I mean এখানে, but ASL like I said, আমি গ্রেডের প্রেশারটা ফিল করি না, but like there are other people I see অনেক anxious, panic করছে, oh my god what will happen.
Yeah.
How do you and এটা একটা বাজে ইয়াও আছে, it impacts your exam result as well.
Yes.
So how should students deal with that?
So I think, we have moved away from this grading system. Things have changed again in the last 10 years, okay? First of all, let's get this out of the way. When you have a lot of pressure, it creates, it will create a stress on your academic performance. So you can't take that pressure, okay? It will affect your academic achievement. It is given, okay? And whichever education theory you look at, they will say the same thing, that you can't have pressure or stress or family problems. That will create a problem in your academics. But the industry has changed a lot. Of course, grades are important. It helps you to have access to good universities or good organizations to work with. Fine. But nowadays, I've seen, even in education institutions, even if you get average grades, but they look at your skills nowadays. So
হ্যাঁ, কিভাবে তুমি কথা বলতেছো, প্রেজেন্ট করছো, these are very important. And
public speaking skills, presentation skills.
I remember আমাদের ক্লাসে যে ফার্স্ট হইতো স্কুলে, ওর নাম ছিল, so I think was a very great guy when it came to studies, right? But if you talk about representing yourself, being confident, standing confident, talking to someone, looking them in the eye, basic communication skills, public speaking, এগুলা he was lacking all this. তারপরে আরেকটা aspect was or athleticism. He was like that scrawny kid who was like, he's okay, she's fit, he's good enough to like walk and everything, he's not that bad like a geek tech nerd, but like I think that shouldn't be the standard. এছাড়া I feel like যেরকম teachers would listen to him a lot. So since he was our
because he was first,
and he was our class captain, or like we call it prefect. So I think that shouldn't be the case, because যারা ফুটবল খেলে, গেমস ক্লাস পছন্দ করে, ওর ফুটবল খেলতে ভালো লাগবে, সামিলের হয়তো বই পড়তে ভালো লাগবে, which is fine. Both parties can be respected, but teachers being biased towards one party is where it creates the problem.
Because I think the game has changed. The game has flipped. Organizations, they do look at grades, but it's not a long-term plan anymore. They look at other things. They look at your extracurricular activities. They look at public speaking skills, presentation skills. Do you know a bit of AI? Do you know how to edit video? During pandemic, a grown man like me, I learned how to edit videos, right? How to use Final Cut Pro. Do you know how to use Photoshop and Illustrator? And there are many softwares, right? These are the things that matters. I'm not saying grades does not matter. It matters, but
there are other aspects to it as well. I think grades is not where the issue is. It's the grading system.
Yes.
So another question. So since this part of our video is completely about students, I want to ask, like, আমি যদি বাইরে দেশে কোথাও পড়তে যেতে চাই, বা বাইরে দেশে কি যাওয়া উচিত নাকি, should I stay in Bangladesh, বা should I go to US, UK, Canada, Australia? What university should I pick? কোন সাবজেক্ট আমি চুজ করব? এগুলো নিয়ে students are very confused. I want you to break down certain myths, misconceptions about this.
It depends on you. You can thrive anywhere where you have, given the amount of resources, okay? For example, I work with Nujhat in Apply Start, right? Sifat's company. And I think, again, it's a very young company. And Nujhat studied here at North South, and she can be compared to any graduate in the US or UK. She's that good. So which means that she has used the resources that was available to her. Okay, so it's not necessary that you have to go abroad to learn something, because the world has changed.
এখানে I feel like মানুষের মধ্যে একটা মিসকনসেপশন থাকে যে আমি বিদেশ যেতে পারতেছি না, আমার ফ্রেন্ডরা বিদেশে কত কিছু করে ফেলতেছে, আমি
peer pressure again.
But I feel like you can mitigate this. Get active on LinkedIn, start talking to people abroad, participate in different expos.
Absolutely.
I know this guy, Rifat Onik, one of the best UI UX designers out there. He even worked for the MyGP UI UX, and he's from Rajuk. Or he's also designing the AFS website. Rifater kotha bolchi. So ও যেরকম এই যে let's say the common myth যে মানুষ মনে করে যে বাংলা মিডিয়ামে পড়লে তুমি ইংলিশ মিডিয়াম থেকে একটু পিছায় থাকবা, but that
no. I have seen many students in Bengal medium who are far superior than English medium students. It's a myth.
So, like এই জিনিসটা, it's the same with, let's say, studying in abroad and studying in your country. The geography makes an impact. Geography makes an impact in terms of network, in terms of opportunities. But geography doesn't stop you from becoming a better version of yourself every day. I feel like Rifat is so talented. She EBL থেকে 10 লাখ টাকা একটা grant পাইছে, was recognized by a lot of awards and everything.
Yeah, I've met Rifat.
And he's like a climate change activist, and like she Dubai te expo te gese eka at the age of 17. Then he went to Kazakhstan and Tanzania. Imagine the experience he learned. And now he's in US, Gettysburg, 100% scholarship, full ticket. So like he studied, he did ECS, and now he's also doing university as well for free.
Yeah, for free. Yeah. So that's where the change comes in. So again, academics is
এখানে রিফাত তো ইংলিশ মিডিয়ামের মতো ওই ইয়াটা পায় নাই, তাহলে how did he get exposed?
So you have to, as I told you, you have to get. You have to use your resources in the best possible way. For example, when I started this institution, I just had 3 lakhs, right? I started with 3 lakhs. And still I do not
now
have,
this doesn't look like it's a 3 lakh setup,
No.
but it grew. So
because entrepreneurs, students, everyone should know how to work with less resources. You should know how to use the resources in the best possible way that's available to you. And still, we do not have a lot of money available to us, but how can we use it? For example, what we've done to use this setup. Probably it's not $1 million setup, but it's a setup, that we've managed in whatever
it's
it was
better
available.
than the mass market and the majority.
Yeah, it's better than 80% of the market, right? So I think that's what we need to learn, how to work with less resources and use our resources efficiently. And many times, because of peer pressure, like amar friend er gari ache amar nai, I think we should get out of that. That's not important. What is available to you, you should think of that, because I've seen students crying over the fact that, my friends are going to, US, UK, Dubai, and I'm here, my parents can't afford. There are good universities here too. And I think...
And masters আছে, PhD আছে, বাইরে কিছু করলে যাও.
And on top of that, nowadays we have this thing in our hand, right?
Yeah.
And you can do any course. You can do a course from Harvard. You can do a course from Cambridge. Like I did CELTA from Cambridge. So... opportunities are limitless now because of the internet. There are so many websites now you could use, like Coursera and stuff, and you could get the same quality education sitting down here. There are universities that provide you 100% online tuition. You could complete your bachelor's sitting in Bangladesh. Okay, so I think we need to stop being ungrateful. And be grateful with whatever we have.
I think focus on the solutions instead of the problems and highlighting them.
For example, it's called a positive mindset. Okay,
Be optimistic.
Be optimistic, not looking at the negative things. I think there was a point in my life, especially, I think the initial years in the UK, because the things that I went through, I used to look at things very negatively, and it was quite, I don't know, very poisonous. Then I shifted my approach.
Mindset অনেক বেশি impact আছে.
So I'm going to look at the positive things in my career. With what I have, I'm not going to look at what my friends are doing. A lot of my friends had a lot of luxuries very early on in their life. I never got the opportunity to use cars when I was in my A-levels. My father said, "You're not allowed to use my car," and I used to use the public transport, the rickshaw. Okay. And I never ever cried over that matter, okay? And in that way, I'm quite secured, and I think everyone should have this quality. I'm not saying that I'm a saint, but being secured, I think it's the key.
Interesting. I think let's wrap this conversation with
for how many hours?
I'm not sure. I think it might be like more than 30, 40, 50 minutes.
I think it's close to 1.5 to 2 hours.
So let's wrap this conversation with like 5 quick questions. Number 1, name like top 3 books like that you would recommend others to read about life.
Okay, so I'm reading this book called The Creative Act. It teaches you how to be creative and not be monotonous. And there's this book by Ken Robinson. I'm not good in remembering names, but Ken Robinson is one of the most famous educator we've had in this world. And he talked about how to transform schools. I also read because I mostly read education books, right? I also read a book by Salman Khan from Khan Academy. and he talked about his journey. It's a beautiful
What's
book.
the name of this book?
I forgot. We can put it on the link.
Yeah,
right.
let's put the link.
Let's put it on the link, and it'll teach you a lot about education. Yeah. So
Okay.
great.
The second question is, what do you do when you're anxious, nervous, and you're panicking? Like, what's your method?
I study. I study a lot. I love studying in my computer laptop, reading something or researching, preparing for my lessons. Because for teachers, you always have to update yourself. I never use. You see my presentation. I never use the same presentation, the same old stale presentation. In my class. So yeah, I do that. And it
Third
feels
question
good.
is, how do you deal with pressure? Like, let's say financial pressure, family pressure, etc. How do you deal with it?
I think I plan a lot. I'm very organized, and that does not create pressure. For example, after the protest, I knew I had to take a lot of classes because I also teach in a university.
Yeah.
So before even going into the problem, I took a lot of extra classes.
You're prepared.
I was prepared that I need to take 3 extra classes on this course, 3 extra classes on this course, and now I'm fine. Okay, I'm smiling all through. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so the fourth question is, what is your future with FES, and what are you guys planning to introduce to help students be students in a better way?
I cannot give out all the plans because how competitive the industry is.
Yeah.
But we are improving ourselves every day. Like, again, I'm a secured person, so I don't compare myself with other coaching centers, but how can we improve from yesterday? That has been my motive. That has
Getting
been
better
my goal.
1% every day.
Yeah. Like, for example, okay, we've done so many things. What can we do? Now we can
Yeah.
do a podcast, right? Let's explore that arena. You're growing. You get to learn different things about camera, angles, editing, right? This experience.
I think about people as well in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's wrap this up with the last question. That is, if you were to summarize today's conversation, how much would you rate this?
What do you mean? You want me to rate this conversation?
Yeah. What do
I
you
think it was a great conversation. We had great food.
Yeah.
Right. I think it was a 9.5 on 10.
Yeah.
It's late in the night, but it's very peaceful, very calm.
I think it's like 12 or like 11, right?
Yeah, almost 12.
Yeah.
Because we are shooting at 3G Campus A
Yeah.
and FES, and we had students till 9 o'clock. So we had to wait for them to go. But this has been a great conversation.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have guests from next time, right?
Yeah, so the vision of this podcast in the future is to bring guests that students aspire to be, students that they look up to, guests that they feel like should be key opinion leaders. So this entire podcast is about building students into a better version of themselves, ensuring that the growth mindset, that learning mindset, and all these topics are discovered so that students in our day-to-day life is learning and growing. So thank you so much, guys, for watching this. And if you're new to our YouTube channel, just hit the like button and subscribe. And I think that's it for today. All right, bye-bye. See you.
Thank you. Take it.